Hi, and welcome to Axle Nation, powered by United Axle. I'm Kara.
I'm Todd.
And we are your hosts today. Our special guest is Mike from Alignment Specialists Northwest in Boise, Idaho. Mike is just getting started in the spindle replacement business, and we wanted to visit with him today to learn more about his current business and his decision to expand to spindle replacements. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
To the show. Do you tell us a little bit about you and your current business?
So currently we, Alignment Specialists Northwest, we specialize in semi-truck and trailer alignments and also suspension repair, bushings, Hendrickson walking beams, kingpins, all of the, I say, frame down stuff that needs repair. We've got into doing the kingpin bores on the steer axles, doing that machine work.
Okay.
And
what system do you use for that?
we use the Stemco APE system for that.
Okay. That's a well-known one.
And I've actually made some modifications so we can do like the Watson Challen lift axles, and there's some other stuff that that we just changed around so we could do it ourselves. And then as far as the spindle replacement stuff, I've been looking at it for the last probably 2 years. And there's one person in the valley that does it regularly in our valley where we live. And there's sometimes where he gets, 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out because he's very busy.
That's a long downtime for
that's
truckers.
A lot of downtime, and so that's one of the reasons why I looked into it. I had the opportunity to watch him do his job, and it's things that concern me as being an alignment tech is, okay, how does he know that spindle's getting in there straight? How do we know we're not changing the toe and the camber on that axle when we're putting that together? And as I started researching this, I saw how United Axle's process takes that guesswork out of it and makes it so it's pretty hard to not get it straight.
It is, and it was designed that way. In fact, Todd did a fantastic job with the design of the threaded spindle. And we do have a lot of customers, who are concerned about, making sure they have a professional service, professional part, and quality service that they can rely on and trust.
Yeah, and that's, we do a lot of fleet stuff, a lot of like the city stuff. We align the fire trucks and do suspension work. And one other thing with our shop is I worked in a leaf spring shop for 15 years. And so we've got an advantage over other places in our area to where we have the knowledge of not only changing the springs out, but if somebody needs to modify one for a heavy side, a crane on the side of a truck or something like that, we're not just throwing blocks and garbage in there. We know how to shape the leaves correctly and put that all together right. And so that part of the suspension end of it, that all goes clear out to the wheel end. And the one thing that we get calls on for repair, hey, I burn a bearing up. What do we do? Well, then I have to sub that out. And if we can do that in-house, I just think it's going to be way better for us as a business and make us a little bit more of a, complete business that we can do, what needs to be done.
Very good. So you said you looked into spindle replacements, other companies, and so your major draw toward United Axle was the process?
It really is. Not only the process, but the way it goes together with the threaded bushing, and which makes it unique to everybody else's. And that just seems like a lot more positive fit and a lot there's just a lot more meat and a lot more thickness of material there that, from what I gather just watching the initial videos, that makes the spindle end stronger than it was from the factory. And so that's going to make, we don't want that spindle falling off and taking out a busload of nuts.
No, it is a big liability, the wheel end.
One of the things about how it goes together versus how factory does it, and there's nothing wrong with factory whatsoever. Friction weld is how they're put on from the factory, and it's a very well-known, strong process. But as a repair, trying to make sure we get that connection, strength out of it. One of the things it does for us, it makes, instead of just, butting two pieces of metal up together and welding it up, it becomes a mechanical connection. It is threaded. We have 3 inches of threads inside of that axle. And when we screw it together, we torque that down to 800 foot-pounds, and then we come back and we weld that up. So it becomes to be a very strong repair. And one of the nicest things about it in the future, if you ever had a problem with that spindle again, you can cut that weld, screw that spindle out, and put another one right back in its place in a very short amount of time. So that's was a key component for us to put out there for the end user.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that attracted us to to your guys' process and to spend the time and the training and everything else to get licensed to do it.
Yeah, that is something we do different from others in the field, is we do AWS certifier technicians. So we do care about the safety in which the replacement's being done and those on the road, because we don't want wheels coming off.
Yeah, exactly.
We have, since we've been in this business, there's a lot going on in the industry that honestly should not be happening. Just regulation alone. I'm not big on regulations, but there's some things that needs to be paid attention to. It's kind of like an airplane.
Yeah.
You want someone certified working on that airplane. You want a little bit of regulation there, safety wise. It's kind of like our spindles. There's not much more that's more important than our spindles. Brakes and steering, of course. Mm-hmm. But I mean, trying to up our game is what we've been trying to do here in the repair.
Yeah. Set our own standards high.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing is it's, dealing with United Axle. As I've gone through the training class and stuff this week, there's a lot more of self-governance there, where it says, okay, this needs to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And that's why our product, our process, everything that United Axle does, that's one of the things that attracted me to that. And then going through the training and the class and everything, that, buries that into my brain even deeper. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about being here. And I thought I was a pretty good welder, and getting into things, and I've fixed a ton of stuff over the years, but the processes and getting it where it needs, getting your skills where they need to be, and concentrating on that. I mean, it's a little bit of an eye-opener for me as well.
Yeah, we like to say we don't teach welding in our trainings, but we like to take someone with experience and kind of hone those skills. And
exactly, that's exactly what's going on.
And one more thing to add to that, one of our biggest claim to fames are, we etch very heavily into our spindles our serial numbers. So therefore we're able to track them, around the country. So we know what dealer's putting on something, and if something ever has a problem or there's a situation, we can always track that. And, not only to where, who might have put it on, but it also lets us know what allotment of material it's been made out of if there was ever a problem. We're very fortunate. Year to date, we have no warranties. And we're excited to say that. But still, we'd like to have a way to track things.
Yeah, and that's another part of, what we learned here this week is that exact thing. It gives everybody something to fall back on, and
accountability.
It gives them accountability, and then it's the, I've heard this from truck drivers. Well, I was just driving straight down the road and it just fell off.
Yeah, they don't even know they lost the wheel.
Yeah.
That's an everyday occurrence, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Truly. And here's the kicker of it is there's over 1 trillion spindles running up and down our roads right now today here in the U.S. Just in class 7 and 8. That's hard to believe, but every semi truck has 8. There's 4 drives and 4 trailers, and you start doing the math, it really is amazing how many is out there.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and we are excited to have you on the United Axle team, and really looking forward to working with you in axle repairs, and think you're going to do fantastic out there in Idaho.
I think we'll do pretty good. We've got our foot in the door all over the place anyways, because there's a bunch of the dealerships that we do alignments for already, and we've got, most of the dealerships. I get calls a couple times a day on parts, and it's gotten to the point to where if the computer doesn't, the VIN number doesn't tell them anything,
right,
then they don't know what to do, and so we work with that as well, and then. We have another customer that makes feed boxes for cows, and there's an amazing number of farmers out there that have the front of this truck with a good engine and the back of this truck with a good suspension, and they weld them together, and away they go on the farm with them. And,
right.
And so being able to, we can't look that up by the VIN, it's being able to service those kind of people, that's another thing that we kind of look at. We do quite a bit of. So.
Okay.
But and like I said, we see a ton of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of wild, crazy stuff out there that's put together, and a lot of unsafe fixes too in spindle repair.
Yes.
We've seen anywhere from cutting between the bearing journals and welding them back together, to just going to the salvage yard and welding a spindle end on. Since there's no regulation, it kind of circles back around to. That's why we hold ourselves to a high standard for safety and.
Well, and I've had some of the guys that are good with the computers on the trucks. And they think a lot of themselves, and I had one guy kind of looked down on what we do because we do suspension work and stuff, and I told him, I said, if your computer dies and that truck's on the side of the road, somebody's going to be mad, but that's as far as it's going to go. I said, if my wheel end falls off, it kills somebody. So whose job is more important here?
Right.
And I pointed that out to him, and he just kind of stared at it.
Well, here's a statistic. Over 50,000 wheel-offs a year here in the U.S.
Yeah, just in the U.S.
Yeah, crazy number. And, good half of them, there's just no reason for it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be having wheels fall off and take off down the highway on us.
So when you're driving down the interstate, make sure you're not side by side a semi. Bottom line. All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for joining us today. And like I said,
this is fun. This is cool. It's I think it'll help our business out a bunch, and I look forward to it. Growing it, and hopefully we make a buck doing it.
Since you've been here for training this week, how's their location, their shop, and everything they've got going on the machining side of things?
It's pretty impressive. The fact that everything's made in-house is, personally, I'm on that same wavelength. We do the same thing in our shop, and if we need a tool made or something to drive a bushing out or whatever, we need to fix this and do it. And I see that type of attitude in the whole United Axle thing. And then plus just pretty much how perfect all of the product comes out. I mean, it's right on the money, and there's, there shouldn't be an issue anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have some great machinists here.
Yeah, and
they do good work.
And then the training facility itself is it's set up to where nobody's stepping on each other, and you can take the time to learn, and Todd and the rest of the staff out there giving you pointers and all of that kind of stuff. Hey, do this a little bit different and we'll get this result. That kind of thing has been incredibly helpful.
We spent a lot of time and effort in setting up the classroom, if you will. We have 8 stations, and just everybody having their own welders and tooling, and no cords on the floors. Everything's on hose reels, and we just try to set that presence and come in and learn instead of be frustrated, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and it's it's safer for everybody too, and especially if you have younger guys that don't have experience being around this kind of stuff. It makes a lot of difference, and reminds guys that have been doing it a while like me that, hey, you need to do this too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, safety is important.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mike. And if you're listening and have questions or comments about today's episode, go to unitedaxle.com/Axle Nation and leave us some feedback. We would love to hear from you. And if you're ready to grow your shop and be part of a nationwide network, head to unitedaxle.com/dealer and take the next step.